There's a great deal of power that comes with being young and broke. The more materially successful I become, the more I see. More money, more problems. When I was 21 years old and freshly back from a road trip to the Lost Coast, I learned just how valuable of a position I was in as a boy who was closer to government assistance compared to financial freedom. I'm a firm believer that when I was 21, if I was still bagging groceries instead of being unemployed and at the door of financial collapse, I would have never gone to Louisiana to work on my friend Jimmy's film, because I would have never seen the opportunity. I would have told myself I couldn't take the pay cut even though I was only making 15 grand a year. I would have convinced myself that I was too established in LA. But because I didn't have a job and was so desperate for one with any relation to the film industry, I executed on every opportunity that came my way. It took me less than a week from first hearing about this opportunity to go to Louisiana, to break my lease, sell a majority of my belongings, and buy a one-way Southwest plane ticket to New Orleans. I was as single as they come, and I had nothing holding me back in LA. Well, except Biba, that is. But we FaceTimed. When I bought that Southwest plane ticket to head to New Orleans, there was no guarantee of a job. All I knew was I had a bed to sleep in and a backseat to ride in. So when I landed in New Orleans and Jimmy informed me that he had talked to production and got me a paid job as a production assistant, I was on cloud nine. Up to this point, I've been working for free on film jobs. So even though I was only getting paid Louisiana minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, I was still employed in the film industry. Louisiana turned into so much more than a bed and a back seat. I was going to be the camera PA. This was going to be the perfect opportunity to learn how to be a camera assistant. But because I was what they call a political hire and someone from out of town, the local camera assistants didn't want anything to do with me. Even though Louisiana was a right-to-work state, they didn't want me around. This was my first experience with union politics, and I was at a loss for words. I'd come all this way and was so desperate to learn from these professionals how to be a camera assistant and how to get in the union, yet they wouldn't let me touch an empty lens case. I hated this mentality. But what I hated most was that this union that I so desperately wanted to get into, what was now holding me back. I couldn't believe it. This set me back at first, and I was filled with anger, much like when I had the accident in the value package. But then I realized, either way, I was here, and I was still going to be making $7.25 an hour, whether they allowed me to be their camera PA or not. Now I could either continue to complain about this situation, or I could use this as a learning experience that I craved so desperately. Maybe camera assisting wasn't for me. So I went to my friends in the art department and got 8.5 by 11 copies of all the drawings of the sets. I bought a clipboard, a 12-pack of different color Pilot gel pens, and a fanny pack to keep them in. I then walked around the set with my clipboard, array of pens, and fanny pack and drew every single lighting setup for the duration of the movie. All 86 scenes. Every single time the camera moved, I drew the lighting setup. I was only doing this because I had the time, but later I learned that what I was subconsciously doing was learning the mathematics behind lighting. On set, I was learning the difference between 250 and 251 diffusion. I was learning color theory from the array of gels Jimmy was using on his lights. And then on the drive home, I would sit in the back seat and hear about the at-line dynamics of what actually happened on set that I didn't even realize. I was privileged with some quality information sitting in that car and going through those fast food drive-thrus in New Orleans. Louisiana turned into my 3-month film school that I could never afford to go to. All this anger I had for these camera assistants and for this union that wouldn't allow me to touch an empty lens case helped me turn my situation into an even better opportunity. If I would have spent those 3 months in Louisiana moving camera cases around, charging batteries, and pushing camera carts, I'd probably be a better assistant today. But I would have never learned the basics of cinematography while still getting a paycheck, even if it was only $7.25 an hour. A few months after the movie wrapped, the International Cinematographers Guild ended up interviewing Jimmy and writing a piece in their magazine about the movie he shot in New Orleans. Along with the interview, Jimmy submitted one of my lighting diagrams, and it was published with the article. This was one of my proudest moments thus far in my career. I was still not anywhere close to being in the Cinematographers Union, but one of my lighting diagrams was in their magazine. Upon returning to Los Angeles, I no longer had an apartment to stay in. Of course, this was on purpose. The plan was to come back to LA, buy a cargo van, and convert it to my home on wheels. But I got cold feet. Remember, avoidance is my strongest trait. Not my greatest, but my strongest. And boy, was it back in full force. So I stayed with Jimmy and his family. If you haven't guessed it yet, I would be nowhere in the film industry without the generosity of Jimmy and his family. In the end, what motivated me to stop my avoidance and looking for excuses was pretty simple. Jimmy told me I needed to get out of his house because I had a friend come to town and needed the space. I was once again a gainfully unemployed adult. I still couldn't grow facial hair, and now I didn't have a place to live. It took me getting to a point where I didn't have a place to lie my head at night to actually go out and execute on the plan to buy a cargo van. So that week, I dragged my friend Ziggy to 8 different Nissan dealerships in LA County, and he helped me negotiate the deal of a lifetime for a Nissan NV200 cargo van. Every dealer we went to, he'd walk up to the car salesman and say, "I don't want to insult you, but I'm gonna have to insult you." By the end of the week, I was following Ziggy in the value package of the 110 freeway in a 2015 Nissan NV200 that I paid $20,000 out the door for, nearly $4,000 under MSRP. I don't want to insult you, but I'm gonna have to insult you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me. So give it up to Swag Man Dude on the saxophone, and let me do my thing. Hey, I said it's hard to sip it slow when it tastes good. I got a mansion in the hills and that's my neighborhood. An empty spot up on the shelf, I need a vase to put there. A couple wooden chairs, that be looking good, yeah. And baby, if you want, I'll wait for you. We could sit inside my crib and watch a pay-per-view. Cause I just need you next to me, keep you my accessory. I just wanna sing you your new favorite tune. And it goes a little something like